I can see him making his run, and I'm like, oh my God, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I see that cross coming in, and my life was literally, it was like slow motion.
Out of frustration, dirty play, gets a red card. I had one bot in my mentions, though. He was just coping so hard.
If you are betting on the summer window, I think you're setting up yourself for failure.
This episode of Lobbing Scorchers is sponsored by Full Pull Wines, a Seattle-based seller. Not only are they a local company, but they've been supporting independent Seattle soccer media since 2011 and are run by Sounders fans. They offer the best boutique wines in the world to members of their mailing list with special focus on their home, the Pacific Northwest. Their model is simple. 1, they email compelling offers. 2, you request bottles that sound appealing. 3, your wine arrives at their Soto warehouse and is ready for pickup or shipping. Their Soto tasting room is also open to the public. If you're interested in joining their mailing list or learning more about them, visit fullpullwines.com. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 58 of Lobbing Scorchers. This is Ari Lilienwall. Got producer Noah here with me. And Noah, I think this might be the most jam-packed show in Lobbing Scorchers history. We've got so much to get to today. How are you feeling?
You know, we waited to record this episode because we knew that there was so much news coming, but honestly, I didn't think that... We've also said a few times that this is the most jam-packed episode. I genuinely believe that this is actually the most jam-packed episode.
So much to get to. We're going to dive into another Leagues Cup dub pod coming off the Seattle Sounders 4-0 thrashing of Pumas at Leuven Field.
What a fun game.
Devolved into chaos and anarchy late in the match and also has them advancing to the quarterfinals of the Leagues Cup. So we're going to do our game review, breaking down the fine points of what was really another excellent performance from Seattle. We're going to hit our agenda check. We're going to take your questions. Later on, we're going to bring on our friend Niko Moreno from Pulso Sports and Sounder at Heart, and he's going to be talking about today's Craig Waibel's press conference at Long Angers. That's right. Craig Waibel was on the mic. He was ready to get grilled, and we're going to give our takeaways from that and get Nico's takeaways from that presser as the Sounders close out another transfer window without a major addition. Then we're going to preview another godforsaken match against LAFC, who Seattle is unfortunately playing in the next round of the Leagues Cup, which I'm pretty irritated by, but it is what it is. We're just basically going to we've previewed LAFC like a lot of times this year, and we're going to do it again in the Open Cup, so that's unfortunate, but we do have to do that. We're going to hit on some other results from Leagues Cup, and then we've got a little bit of some minor USMNT news, as Mauricio Pochettino has been hired as the new head coach of the USMNT, which is about among the splashiest names, I think, that they could have made for this hire, so... with so much to get to, I don't think we're going to spend all that much time on that, but we do have to hit on that. So I think that was everything. It's going to be a jam-packed occasion, but I'm looking forward to it. But before we get into all that, I did want to let you all know that Lobbing Scorchers is a part of the Sounder at Heart podcast network. If you want to get the best independent Seattle soccer coverage, consider supporting us by going to sounderatheart.com/LS. That's sounderatheart.com/LS. Scroll down to subscribe and support to get 30 days completely free. Every sign up through our show helps support and grow this show.
And even more than that, there is a subscription drive happening right now for Sounder at Heart as they are approaching their 1-year anniversary. So if you do have a Sounder at Heart subscription already, check your billing information. Make sure that your renewal will go through on your card. Mine didn't. And Jeremiah called me. He said, Noah, what are you doing? Check your card information. And then I fixed it. We're all good. And even more than that, if you want to come meet and hang out with me and Ari, there is a 1-year anniversary party. I don't remember the date. It's in the description.
August 22nd,
7 p.m., 7:30 p.m. All the information, tickets down below. We will be doing a live edition of Agenda Check on Nos Arietes. And so that'll be really fun. You do not want to miss it.
It's going to be a big time occasion. Please come out. We'd love to meet all of you. Also, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to the Lobbing Scorchers YouTube.
We're doing numbers.
The drive to 350 has been completed, and actually the drive to 400 is also almost completed. We're at about 383 or something. So please help us on the drive to 400 YouTube subs. We should be able to get there in short order. Appreciate the support from everyone who's helping us grow and expand our presence on that platform. And shout out to all of our like new audience members that we're getting on YouTube. We've kind of broken into a different crowd there. So thank you all for tuning in and listening. We really appreciate it. All right, let's get into this game review, Noah. This was a great game. This was a great game. Great game. We'll hit our lineup reaction first. There's not really all that much to this lineup reaction. It was the exact same lineup as the Galaxy game, was it not? So first choice all the way through every area of the field, except for Andy T was in goal once again, but really not much to break down there because there was nothing different. I mean, Seattle was locked and loaded, no rotation, nothing like that. So first choice 11 for this matchup against this Liga MX opponent. And Seattle went on to absolutely obliterate this team.
That's an understatement. I feel like
it was a tough game for Pumas on multiple fronts. And really, it's funny because actually the first about half hour of this game, I actually thought Pumas was pretty comfortably in control on the front foot, generating the chances. And in fact, they actually had an opening goal that they scored in that first half hour, waved off for offside. The guy was way offside, but if they had scored the opener at that point, it kind of felt like it was coming. It really did. Like they looked like the home team. They had most of the possession. They were carving Seattle up a little bit, and I think I was definitely felt a little ominous, like this game could get away from Seattle if they weren't careful. But then, Noah, in the 32nd minute, a man by the name of Paul Rothrock. Pumas had been in control, as I said, but Paul Rothrock, 32nd minute. I think this was probably the best Paul Rothrock goal yet in terms of just degree of difficulty. It was great execution on this play, on the set piece by JP and Rusnak. Pumas left all the space in the world out on the right side, and so it was a good heads-up play by JP and Rusnak to see that, make that read. Rusnak make the run. Great delivery by JP to put him into that space. And then, God, that cross by Rusnak is so just good. Inch perfect. His delivery into the box continues to be elite. It was once again. But, you know, if you told the out of any of the guys that I would have expected to get that much vert to win that header and put it on target, I don't know if I would have picked Paul Rothrock. Jordan Morris has scored a couple of those this year. That's probably who I would have picked. But Paul Rothrock got up. He wins his header and then just inch perfect placement on that. So just a really well-executed goal all around on this. Great assist by Rusnak. Nice little secondary assist for JP. Noah, what did you think of the latest goal by Paul Rothrock?
You know, I saw it happened basically right in front of me, right in front of my seats. I was there with a fellow Paul Rothrock enjoyer, my buddy Liam, and I can see him making his run, and I'm like, oh my God, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I see that cross coming in, and my life was literally, it was like slow motion, Ari, and I see him get up over his defender. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to score this. Jump up out of my seat and just boom, clips off the post, back of the net. The game felt wide open at that point.
It turned the whole game around. Pretty much from that moment on, Seattle took back over, I thought. Like the whole period at the beginning of the game where Pumas was dominated became a thing of the past, thanks to the dynamic combination of Albert Rusnak and Paul Rothrock. It would stay 1-0 all the way into the second half. In the 58th minute, that's when Seattle got their second goal. This was a great goal. Good awareness by Rusnak to find Jordan Morris with that header. He wins his header and plays Jordan right in on goal. But this was one of Jordan's better goals of the season. I thought he chested down to himself.
I think it might be his best goal of his career, honestly.
It was a really like, sick finish. I mean, not just the fact that it was left-footed, which we all know that talking point has unfortunately been a thing throughout his entire career. Not so much in the last couple years, but any time Jordan Morris scores a left-footed goal, everyone's like, oh, his left foot. But he really great finish, great control to bring that ball down and set himself up for it. He had the defender all over him, and he bammed. So that made it 2-0, and then at that point, it felt like Seattle was in cruise control, but they would add two more goals before this thing was done and dusted. The next one came in the 71st minute off a penalty kick converted by Rusnak. That was all about Obed Vargas. He makes another great run into the box. continues to show his attribute of foul drawing, which I believe was imparted onto him by Niko. It just, whenever he draws those fouls like that, it reminds me so much of Niko.
He has the same body language as him too when he goes down. Like
they make it look so convincing.
Yeah.
Like where even if the contact maybe wouldn't necessarily mean that you have to go to ground, they make it look like just so convincing.
Yeah.
And I think Obed actually was fouled in a way where he had to go to ground there. But
I think another
it was
big
just
thing,
a great play by him. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, another big thing by him too is he picks and chooses his moments really well of when to go down like that, which was exactly one of the things I love the most about Niko. But yeah,
great heads up play to win that PK. Nice clinical conversion by Rusnak. And then this game really popped off late. This is the point of the game that I was looking forward to talking about. 3-0 in second half stoppage time, and Seattle gets another penalty kick. What happened was Christian Roldan played Jordan through, and he's off and running. I mean, he's got a breakaway that he's probably going to finish. And the Pumas defender steps on the back of his ankle from behind. Out of frustration, dirty play, gets a red card, but then it set off a mass dispute, and Jordan was fired up. He was pissed off. You know, I did a little lip reading. Noah, I put my John Boy hat on, did some lip reading. He was scoreboarding the guy. He said multiple times, "It's 3-0. It's 3-0, bro. It's
bro hit
3-0.
him with the Tres Saucero."
Yeah, he hit him with the Tres Saucero, and then the camera cut away, but it looked like, to me at least, what he was saying. I read, "What the fuck are you?" And I'm pretty sure what he was saying was, "It's 3-0. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Fouling me like that in a 3-0 game? Like, come on. Like, what are we talking about?" But anyway, it was popping off back and forth. Paul Rothrock got in there. He got shoved to ground.
He got punched in the face, I think.
He got hit in the face. Jackson Reagan was in there. It was
Andy T made a sprint from the back line, and there was
Andy T sprinted in there. He was pumped up. We know how pumped up Andy T can get. He was
I wouldn't
doing
want
his
to be on the
Andy
other
T
end of that.
thing. No. So anyway, Pumas basically disgraced and embarrassed themselves in every capacity. That's a play that you make when you're frustrated about getting bammed on by Paul Rothrock and company. So it was definitely entertaining. I mean, it's honestly good though that Jordan didn't get hurt. Like that's why you don't do that, is because you can injure somebody. But it was definitely a fitting way, I thought, to end what was a dominant performance from Seattle. They move on. Pumas is going home. I don't think this is how anybody really predicted this game would go. I definitely thought it would be competitive, and it was for a bit, but it definitely wasn't. Basically from the hour mark onward. I'm going to hit my rapid fire takeaways here, Noah, and then you can tell me what you think of these. Just more electric stuff from Albert Rusnak. 1 goal, 2 assists, perfect cross on the Rothrock goal. He sets up Jordan's goal with the other assist and sunk his PK. I mean, he is up to, I think it's like 6 goals and 16 assists or something this year across all comps. The form that he showed during Seattle's kind of resurgent run before Leagues Cup started, it seems to have carried over. So more good stuff from him. This felt like the whole sequence we recapped at the end with Jordan felt like kind of like a symbolic moment of Jordan turning a new leaf and almost taking on a new persona. Jordan he's been known in his career as he's not like a fiery guy. Like off the field, he seems like a very nice guy, laid back kind of guy. He's not like a get in your face type of guy. And I think this year I've already kind of seen him shed that a little bit and just even in this game earlier, he's never a guy that's complains at the refs all that much, but even earlier in this game he was complaining at the ref, which is not always what you want to be doing, but like I like to see the fire from him. But then also him getting in that guy's face and cussing him out and just in talking trash, getting in a shoving match, it's just stuff that we haven't really seen from him that much, if at all, in his career. And I think that this is a like turning point moment where he goes from nice guy Jordan to like kind of badass Jordan.
He went Joker mode.
Yeah, he went Joker mode, and I loved it.
Yeah.
like I said, Pumas, I mean, they totally embarrassed themselves, and their fans were coping about as hard as I've ever seen on Twitter after the game. They were
felt
actually
like CCL final on
they
Twitter.
were big Liga MX fans. Like when their teams lose like that, they're pretty funny about it. Like they're like very kind of self-deprecating about it.
Yeah.
And you saw a lot of that after the game, which I appreciated. Like I thought that all that stuff was hilarious. The Sounders social media team was on about as big of a heater as I've ever seen them go on, because I think they kind of read the room that emotions were high after how the game ended. So they capitalized on that, and they were basically clowning on Pumas. They had multiple tweets go viral, and those got picked up by Liga MX fans and media. So that created a lot of really fun discourse. I had one bot in my mentions though that he was just coping so hard. And he kept, like, I don't like to necessarily give the bots a platform like this, but in this case, just the points he was making was really funny. He was saying that, like, if Seattle went and played at Puma, he was saying that the travel was to blame. If Seattle went and played at Pumas, there's no way that they could have won, which a few people correctly pointed out that when these two teams played in Champions League, Seattle did go there and Pumas did not win. In fact, they choked away a win at the very end and gave away a penalty that caused it to end in a tie, and then famously got bammed on 3-0 in the second leg at Lumen to give Seattle the distinction of the first ever MLS team to win the modern incarnation of CONCACAF Champions League. But so like, that was just incorrect. But what he kept saying, like, Seattle needs to come play at our stadium at the specific time of day.
Noon.
At noon. The specific time of day where we always play, which I've just never seen that.
Yeah, that was wild.
And that kind of made me think, like, this has got to be a bit. Like you're talking you're talking about like it has to be at your stadium, otherwise you can't win. And also it has to be exactly at noon. Like, I don't know if he was serious. The novelty of that was pretty funny. I've never seen that level or that type of cope. My other takeaway, Pumas does have one player who I want for the Sounders. This guy, Cesar Huerta. So the broadcast, they were talking about how he was making a case for tournament MVP. He'd been dominating this competition before this game, and you just saw these moments of how good he is. And he's the exact type of player that I want Seattle to sign. And I know that the De La Vega signing was like supposed to kind of provide some of those attributes that he was displaying, but that obviously hasn't happened due to his injury issues. Like, leave that guy in Seattle. I want that guy on the team.
He can stay.
He can stay. The rest of them, like, just get him out of here. Go home. You guys totally. I mean, that's embarrassing.
They might leave everyone but him in Seattle. Honestly,
they probably should, because like that was just. I mean, it was a joke of an ending.
Did you see the Rothrock? He did him pretty good. He did Cesar Huerta pretty good.
Well, yeah, we were going to talk about that in the Paul Rothrock agenda.
Okay, we'll hit that. Sorry, too early on that.
But that's actually what set the whole thing off.
Yeah,
was the Meg on Huerta. But during that opening 30 minutes or so where Pumas was dominating, I was like, oh, this guy's gonna ban. This guy is good. This is bad. He's good, and it's bad for Seattle. But luckily, it didn't pan out like that. But the dude is nasty. I mean, he's a $10 million player, and you saw why, I thought. Final takeaway. Folks, I can report to you the national pundits are finally taking notice. It was partially because they were one of the only games going on, for that slate, but they got a lot of airtime on the League's Pass wrap-up show on Apple TV, specifically Albert Rusnak. So they have a Star of the Day segment, the national pundits, that they do, where they pick one player who's the star of the day, and then they put a big graphic on the screen behind the pundits, and it's got Rusnak's name on it, and it's got like a portrait of him like celebrating, and then they do a 5 to 10 minute little segment where they talk about why they're the star of the day. So it wasn't just a pundit who was bringing up Rusnak to name drop him and then moving on. It was it's the Star of the Day segment. So that was nice to see from the national pundits, because Rusnak, for how well I've been saying that the national pundits need to be taking more notice of this. Like a lot of other I guess, quote unquote, bigger names in the league, if they were putting up the numbers he's been putting up lately, they would be the lead story on Season Pass. He hasn't gotten that attention, so it was good to see him get Star of the Day. And then after that, the pundits who were doing the broadcast for the LAFC game, they were talking to LAFC, of course, destroyed the Earthquake, so they were talking about how LAFC was going to play Seattle, and I think it was Moedu who was on the call for that game, and he was talking about, LAFC's playing the Sounders, and they've got this guy Paul Rothrock who has really stepped up, and he did like a whole riff on Paul Rothrock. I was like, is this a pundit like that's doing the Rothrock thing? And it was. He went on and he gave Paul Rothrock his flowers. And then I think BWP was also talking about Rothrock at some point. So lots of attention from the national pundits after this game. I think really with the Galaxy game and combined with this game, they're finally taking notice, and the team is getting some shine, getting some spotlight.
Yeah, I think even more than the Twitter bamming that I was able to engage in after this win, even more than the win itself, having to see Bradley Wright Phillips awake at 1:30 in the morning on the East Coast to talk about Paul Rothrock on a national broadcast.
Doesn't get better.
It doesn't get better than that, folks. That's everything you could ever ask for.
It's almost like Apple TV listens to Lobbing Scorchers.
It's almost like
they were trying to give us a platform. But I mean, in all seriousness, it's just, when you're producing at the clip that Albert Rusnak and Paul Rothrock have been producing for as long as they've been doing it now, you're gonna get some shine from the national pundits. And it took longer than I would have liked, but it finally happened. All right, let's hit this agenda check, and then we're gonna get into all of your guys' questions. I got 4 written down here, Noah. The first one, kind of on the same topic that we were just talking about, the Bradley Wright Phillips Sounders only beat bad teams agenda. Low-key strengthened. This Pumas team is terrible. I mean, what were they doing out there? I mean, but in all seriousness, this team was near the top of the Liga MX table. I think they were second before Leagues Cup started, and they've got some big-time players for sure. So, I mean, I don't really know if it's strengthened or diminished, but I don't think that this Pumas team is as bad as Seattle made them look, and I think you do have to credit Seattle for that in this situation.
Yeah, and I think that the Sounders are such a playoff team. They're the type of team that's built to play a team like Pumas in a playoff. There, Brian is always that kind of tactical genius when it comes to playoff games, specifically the counterattacking prowess that they've been able to kind of succeed on this whole year plays into their hand so well. When you have a team like Pumas attacking, and then you're able to get that quick one chance with Paul Rothrock, opens the game wide up. Pumas has to chase it more. They're playing that counterattacking still. You get that beautiful goal from Albert Rusnak. I don't know. I don't think to go back to the agenda, I think Pumas are good. I think that this is diminished.
I'm just clowning. I mean, they seem to, as an organization, have a passion for coming to Seattle and getting absolutely banged on. That seems to be...
That's their bit.
However good they may or may not be, they do... I mean, I'm just going off the last 2 games that I've seen them come here, and
that's a pretty big sample size.
Very well. That's enough of a sample size for me to formulate a conclusion. The Rusnak and Jordan Morris are the best 1-2 punch in MLS agenda, which is one that I was a purveyor of. And then, based on like how the LAFC game and then a Coxa game went, wasn't looking very hot. Strengthened for this game. I mean, Rusnak, like I said, was electric. Jordan scored, like you said, arguably one of the best goals of his career, if not the best goal of his career in terms of just the technique and the clinical finishing. So, I mean, they still got to sustain it and do it consistently against higher competition. Ideally, carry this team into trophy contention and all that for this agenda to be fully fulfilled. But it was a great game for them, is the point.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan, two goals, Rusnak, an assist and a goal. I mean, come on.
2 assists.
2 assists and a goal. That's insane.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Especially in a game like this against this team. Like, it's a big time performance in a big time game. This is a new agenda that I probably shouldn't do this. Shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it.
So I see the doc. I'm scared here, Ari.
The MLS is better than Liga MX agenda, which is not an agenda that I necessarily believe in yet, but it is strengthened from this game, but also just from this tournament. Like, okay, are you really telling me? If this is what you're telling me, you can tell me. But like, are you really telling me that the fact that they have to travel just means that they like can't win these games and now they only have 2 teams left? If you're that much better, how can you not win on the road? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? Like, if the quality differential is as much as their fans and their media say, it shouldn't matter where you're playing. It should be anytime, any place, should it not?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's funny too, because while a lot of people want to purvey that Leagues Cup is not a good version of this rivalry between MLS and Liga MX, sure, whatever, that's fine. But also they want to say in the same breath that Liga MX is leaps and bounds ahead of MLS, and that's just not true. That's just not true. I agree with you. I think this is strengthened, and I don't know if the top tier teams are better, but let's say it's Columbus and America in the final. I mean, that's like the 2 heavyweights of the league. Like,
yeah, and also the other thing. I mean, this is a point I've made before, but my sympathy meter on this issue about them having to play all the games on the road. I get it. That is a factor, and it's unfair. And I think like going forward, it should be more balanced in that way. But like, sympathy meter not that high.
No.
MLS clubs, this is exactly what they have to do for Champions League. Like on those road games when they're playing at the beginning of their season and the Liga MX teams are mid-season, and there's a huge fitness disadvantage. And every time MLS clubs go to Mexico under those circumstances and get bammed on a lot of the times because in part because of this big advantage that the Liga MX teams have. Like, does anyone say like that? Does anyone give the MLS clubs a pass on that? No. So I'm not going to give the Liga MX teams a pass like when it's the same scenario in reverse. Like, you gotta be consistent here. So yeah, I don't know if anyone disagrees with that. Like, feel free to
drop us a comment.
Yeah, drop us a comment. Feel free to dispute what I'm saying, but I'm just saying.
This is really this is vindication for Columbus getting poisoned.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that, but it's a good point. And then finally, let's just do the Paul Rothrock at the end here. So, I mean, obviously the agenda is skyrocketed, but like just the manner in which he skyrocketed in this game. First of all, like we went over the goal, like the accuracy, the placement on that header after winning that header, that is a big time play. Like, that's not one of these goals where he's scored a lot of poacher goals, which is great. That's fine. That's a skill. Those goals definitely count all the same. But like this felt different. Like this, if Pedro de la Vega did that, you would be like, damn, that is a DP that is a DP goal right there. Like, for him to win that header and place it like that and actually score that. And then he was in his bag, as John Bell would say. He was in his bag at the end there and just nutmegged the ever-living daylights out of Huerta. That was honestly my favorite nutmeg I've ever seen, considering who did it and the circumstances under which he did it, and then what happened afterwards with them getting so mad that they start getting their guys thrown out of the game and starting fights on the field because of Paul Rothrock. And I thought Schmetz had a fantastic quote after the game. He was talking about what set off that whole dispute, and he was saying, well, yeah, their $10 million winger got megged by a kid from Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
Like, I would be mad too, basically. Like, he didn't say that, but that's essentially what he was saying. And it's like, yeah, exactly. Like, that's why that's such a great moment, because we're talking about a homegrown kid from Capitol Hill, where we're recording this right now, nutmegging this guy that Pumas spent $10 million on. And it's just like, that's like the type of content that you get when these MLS clubs play these Liga MX teams. And I couldn't be more here for it. And really just another game where Paul Rothrock makes both a pronounced impact and a hilarious impact. Like, that was phenomenal content.
Yeah, I mean, getting megged by a guy who's on a league minimum contract.
Yeah, he's making like $82K.
Yeah, yeah, like who's essentially making less than every tech worker in this city is hilarious. But
objectively,
yeah,
like,
even more honestly than that meg for me, his positioning on that Jordan Morris goal to be able to open up that little pocket of space for Rusnak to just loop that ball in over and right into Jordan and keep himself and Jordan offside by just pushing that line a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. He continues to amaze me with his movement. I mean, it is like his positioning, and Brian has hit on this a lot. His soccer IQ is so good.
Exactly. It's a great point because Seattle has gotten, like, he's putting up stat sheet production.
Yeah.
But Seattle has gotten a lot of goals this year, like more than a handful, I would say, or at least I would say a handful. They've gotten a handful of goals this year because of exactly what you're talking about with his movement and how his runs free up the opportunity for a Jordan Morris or someone else to score. So it's a great point, and it's another example of the like legitimate value that he's been providing this team all season. All right, that'll do it for the agenda check. Let's get into questions, Noah. What do we got?
Heck yeah. Thank you all for your questions. You guys were stoked to lob some Scorchers.
My mentions were popping. It was great. Yeah,
it was a fun one. This first one comes from Round Mound. What would the narrative be if De La Vega was having the season that Paul Rothrock is having? Best signing since Ladero?
Exactly. I mean, I kind of just hit on that, but like, the way the production that they're getting from him right now and the impact that he's having on games and results. I mean, I don't know if it's like fully up to the level that De La Vega came in with the expectation that he was going to be like a huge game-changing needle mover for this team. And Paul Rothrock, he is certainly, I don't know if he's been on that level all season, but that honestly, the only reason that you can't say he has is just because like he still hasn't gotten that many minutes. Like he just recently became like a first choice starter for this team, like in a first choice 11 right now with De La Vega being injured. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a great point.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would be stoked with De La Vega having this much production. I'm stoked with Paul Rothrock having this much production. I don't really think it matters what price tag you have on this player, but we are evangelizing Paul Rothrock, one, because I think we can stake the claim that this was our full agenda.
The very first episode of this show was called Paul Rothrock Needs Some Help. And
yeah.
That was because in the Open Cup, he was bamming in goals, and we started the agenda back then. We're on episode 58 right now, and it's still going, and that's because of how he's playing. Like, you know, so
yeah.
It's funny to think about.
Yeah, I'm going to tattoo his name on my back at this point. This next one comes from Chris. How does Jordan Morris's performance at CF impact the rebuild after Rui Diaz? Do you get another DP to replace RRD, or do you spend big on a winger or a midfielder as a designated player instead of continuing to trust Morris at the 9?
Yeah, that's a good debate, and we're probably gonna have that debate a lot. Like down the stretch of the season and into the off season. And, you know, some of my opinion on that is going to be informed on how he finishes out the season. But I think what I'll say, I mean, you can tell me if you disagree with this, Noah, but if he keeps producing at this clip, I don't really know why you would be incentivized to change it. Like the way I see it, he has sort of won the job.
Yeah.
And like what you need from your first choice number 9 is exactly the protection that he's been giving. And I will say, I've already taken this L, but I'll just take it again. Like, I didn't think this was like a good idea really at all. In fact, I was advocating for you. Yeah, it's true. You can, yeah, I'll let you have this one. I was advocating, for Jordan to stay out wide and to keep starting Rui Diaz, because when this team was struggling, I just didn't see Jordan moving there as an option that was going to get you meaningfully more production. But that's absolutely been proven wrong. He has been producing at that level. If he continues to do so, I don't know where you stand on it. I feel like I'm pretty good with him keeping that job and being the first choice number 9 on this team, just with how he's been playing. He still has to sustain it, do it for the rest of the season, and then I think we'll see where the chips fall. But if you ask me right now, I think I'm good with it.
He's on track to have the most productive season he's ever had in his entire career. I think Jordan Morris is a great piece on this team. I think that he is a core part of this team, and the next 2-3 years of his career could legitimately be his prime. And I think another bonus, like just a benefit with him, is you can play him out wide. He's versatile. And that's something that like a pure striker, a pure 9, someone like Raul, who's like insanely talented, he just doesn't have that flexibility. Gotta say, man, I'm here for it. This next one comes from Bobby. With Rusnak... Let me try that one again. This one comes from Bobby. With Rusnak filling the score sheet as effectively as he has been, does the re-sign Rusnak for a slightly lower salary than what he makes now to free up a DP spot take a hit? Not because we shouldn't, but because he wouldn't take max TAM deal. This is a good one.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. It does take a hit because he's producing like a DP right now.
Yep.
But I mean, that's what you want. Like if you're evaluating the decision as to whether to bring him back as a DP or bring him back at all, I think that gets a heck of a lot easier when he's objectively giving you the production that you need from your DP. I mean, like 6-16, man, like, and the season's not even like close to over. Like he's going to be up over 20 dimes probably, or at least close to it, across all comps before the season is over, which I don't think Nico ever had a season where he had 20, and he's one of the best assist guys that's ever played in MLS.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that should kind of put into perspective the type of year that he's having. I don't think it's really getting talked about in that way yet, just because there is so much skepticism around it, right? And there was a long period of this season where he wasn't producing like that. But like, I don't think there's any way at this point that like him taking a pay cut or becoming like a TAM player would make sense from his perspective, not when he's playing like this. So like, to answer the second part of your question, like, yeah, no, he would not take a max TAM deal, nor should he.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we were actually talking about this in the Sounder at Heart Slack channel today. With all of the fact that you failed to make a signing, which we're going to get into with Nico here later, you have no leverage against him. You could offer him a max TAM deal and be like, listen, you're going to be 33 at the end of this when we re-sign you.
He's only 30. He's only
right
at the end of this.
Yeah, at the end, like let's say we offer you a 3-year contract, right? You're going to be 33 at the end of this. As you age, statistically speaking, you don't perform as much, higher injury risk. Like, let's give you a max TAM deal. You're already here. You have kids here. You have your family here, whatever. But the thing is, if they offer that, he can just call their bluff and get, at minimum, the same amount in a max TAM deal at any other club in the league, if not a DP deal coming off of one of the hottest seasons that he has ever had in his career. Mm-hmm. So I think the Sounders are really in a shit or get off the pot position where if you want to re-sign him, you're going to have to re-sign him as a DP. Maybe, and I like this option if they can get it done, a 1+2. So you have next year he'll be a DP, and then the 2 additional years he'll be on a max TAM. I feel like you could work that out where he can make a lot more money now, and then as he ages, maybe he understands. But dude, he is effectively in one season proved the signing right, I think.
Yeah, which is funny to think about because of how this was getting talked about earlier in the year, where it was basically a foregone conclusion that he shouldn't be a DP. Now I'm like, I don't really see any reason why you wouldn't bring him back.
Yeah, exactly. This next one comes from Nat Lang. How might a run at Leagues Cup Championship affect Open Cup/league play, and what should Smetzer prioritize?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I guess that comes down to personal preference. Man, it's tough because I mean you're one game right from the Open Cup final, correct? Yeah. So like you're pretty much just already right there. I think that decision might get made for you to an extent based on what happens in this LAFC game.
Yeah.
I don't really for how well Seattle's played these last 2 games against the Galaxy and against Pumas. I mean, we just saw what happened last time they played LAFC, so you might not even have to worry about that. But I mean, I don't know what you should prioritize. Whichever one gives you more prize money.
This they both give you a spot in CONCACAF Champions Cup. It's like the decision gets made for you, I think. I think you have to play what's in front of you first and foremost and worry about what comes next later. I think that if they go and they play LAFC and they beat LAFC and they have the chance to go on and play, let's say, America, like you're going to prioritize that. Respectfully to Open Cup, Brian Schmetzer and this team and this club wants to play a high level, the best Liga MX team over LAFC in an Open Cup at Starfire. No disrespect. Again, that's just what I imagine that they would prioritize, is whatever is in front of them. So I think that decision, I agree with you, will be made for them. This last one here comes from our good friend, Noah Reif. Have you heard of this guy? I hear he's a great follower
I don't know.
on
He
Twitter.
seems like he might not know what he's talking about.
Yeah. Are we being reactionary? Or is this team actually pretty good? And is it fair to keep questioning the roster while winning this many games, Ari?
I mean, yeah, I think pretty good is like the category that I would put them in now. The thing is, I think the reason there's so much consternation about the roster is, I mean, this fan base expects great. It doesn't expect pretty good. And I do think it's totally fair to point out that 1.48 points per game, which is what they're at in league play, is not really up to the standard that people have come to expect from this team. And really, since CCL 2022, their points per game in the league has not been to the standard that people expect from this team. I do think it's it's fair to point out too that this season got off to a terrible start. But if you look at the sample of games, which is pretty big now over their last 15 or so games, they're at like a 1.8, 1.9 or so points per game pace.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that is a Shield level play pace. They've been playing like that for a while now. And I think things got thrown a little out of whack as far as how we perceive that by the LAFC result and the Necaxa result. That was a regression in vibes, as we titled that pod. But like, if you're looking at it big picture, those are outliers compared to how they've performed over the rest of this stretch, which has been at a very good level. That's got them right back into the playoff race, and it's gotten them on the precipice of an Open Cup final and into the quarterfinals of Leagues Cup. So I think to answer the first part of your question, I think it's totally fair to call this team pretty good. They're definitely not proven as great or elite, but I think
they haven't won anything.
They haven't won anything yet, but they have opportunity to win 3 trophies. So they could definitely put themselves in that conversation. But I don't think it's unfair to question the roster and the lack of transfer movement and all that, because they have not been to the level that has been expected of them based on their history.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's one thing to have blinders on and look at right now, what's happening right in this moment. And then when you take the blinders off and you realize, oh shit, like a lot of our players are going to be potentially on their last year of their contract with an option. And we haven't backstacked our roster with new signings and different people who haven't aged out so that they could age in and be at their prime when our best players are aging out. That concerns me more than, well, look, we beat Pumas, and again, maybe if we win one of the 2, that feels like a success. Maybe if we win 2 of the 3, maybe if we win 3 of the 3, it feels like an amazing season. What I worry about is the future, which we are about to talk about.
Yeah, it's actually a great segue. Let's get into this interview with Niko Moreno. All right, it is time to break down this Craig Waibel presser. That's right. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that Craig Waibel gave a press conference out at Long Acres today to talk about Seattle's movement or lack thereof during this most recent transfer window. And to do so, we've brought on a special guest. We've got Niko Moreno of Pulso Sports and Sounder at Heart. Good friend of mine. We've known each other many years, dating back to our early days on the Sounders beat. I think the best Seattle Sounders insider in the game on that beat, for my money. Niko's always got the scoop on what's going on with this roster, transfer targets, all that stuff. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you absolutely should. But we figured since he was out there, he would be the guy to talk to about this press conference and get some reaction to it. Niko, welcome in. Thanks for coming on, man. It's a travesty we haven't done this sooner, but we're glad to have you on.
Hey, man, what's going on? Big hello to you and your fan base, your audience. Excited to be on. It is a travesty. I wish that I would have been here sooner. I'm very proud of all the work you guys are doing. You guys kind of taking the soccer community here by storm. So very happy for you guys' success. Happy for your partnership with Sounder at Heart, which I always think that is like a mecca of information for those looking for Sounder information. in the city, outside of the state. I mean, it's just fantastic. So happy for you guys, man.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you coming on. Let's just get right into this press conference because I think this was about as anticipated a press conference in recent Sounders memory. The fan base has been, let's just say, unhappy with the lack of additions, the lack of movement, not just in this transfer window, but I've seen the stat. I think Jeremiah was talking about this. I think they're the first club in MLS history, if I have this correct, to go 3 summer transfer windows in a row without making an addition. Garth Lagerwey was known for his patience. Craig Waibel, he went into this window and kind of applied a similar approach. But the first thing I wanted to ask you, Niko, was based on what you heard Craig Waibel say out at this presser at Long Acres today, what was the justification that he gave for the lack of moves in this transfer window? And then on top of that, were you buying what he was saying? Did it make sense to you as to why this team has relatively stood completely pat, really dating back to Champions League, but also this season, save for a couple of additions and obviously Pedro de la Vega.
Oh, I mean that's convoluted. That's very hard to just articulate all in one answer. So I'll try to do my best here. Am I buying what he was selling? Yes, I really do think that his hands were semi-tied. I do believe that he was kind of sent out to shop for a car with a $20,000 budget. I mean, for anybody who understands these days, that's not a lot. Um, and I believe that his effort was there and that he did sit down and negotiated with several players, those players who, as he explained during this presser, it wasn't just about their salary, but you have to make their clubs whole. So you got to pay for a transfer fee, and all that within itself just adds up and stacks up. And if you can't do it financially, then you can't do it because no team is going to give you no hometown discount. No team in MLS, nobody outside of MLS, they're going to do the opposite. Every time that, and I've said this to just about every show that I've done this week, is if you have MLS as part of the negotiation, they're going to tax you. They're going to give you that big dollar money amount. We know that you need it. We know that you want it. You guys have been great when it comes to buying players. So we're going to tax you for it. So that just makes it very difficult when you're going to sit down across the table from somebody that is expecting for you to pay top dollar when that's not what you got. So I do know that they've been looking at some free agents, some that recently got out of contract. I know that they looked at an Ecuadorian winger that plays in the Ecuadorian league. I know that they looked at a Colombian winger that was playing in Europe. And, they're just trying to figure out to see if it's viable. That said, if anything beyond what was said and reading in between the lines of what Craig Waibel was trying to diplomatically explain, is that I am 90% sure that nothing else is going to get done in terms of bringing in a player that's not directly connected with the Sounders. And by that, I mean, maybe Georgie gets signed. Maybe there's some of those little intricacies that can be done to add some depth, but is another player coming in, free agent? I just don't think so. I do believe that Jeremiah basically said the same thing you started off this segment with, directly to Craig, about 3 summer windows in a row. You guys have been inactive. And he kind of blamed Garth a little bit. He said, this is my first window. I mean, you got to talk to Garth. We got to bring him in. So it's different situations, though. Look, I'm a huge Garth Lagerwey guy. I think that he is a freaking genius. And it's a lot easier to say, hey, I didn't do anything in the summer, when in the winter I'm picking up the Roman Torreses, the Nicolas Aderos. I'm working my ways through to get, I already have in my roster a guy like Raul, right? Just he did so many things in the right ways that by the time it was the summer window, maybe he didn't have to be so active. And obviously, by the time he left, that salary and that roster was already put together and tied in for several years. So that's also another reason. Craig, on the other hand, he did have the responsibility to make some moves. And although, as I said earlier, I do believe and I do buy what he was selling, there is some criticism to be had. I mean, he made some moves in the winter window that did not work. So if you're not going to be active in the summer window, then you better be dang sure that your players that you're bringing in the winter are going to work. I asked him that directly. I said, look, the guys that you brought in have not been contributors. You know, they either haven't played or they've been injured. I mean, there's just a whole lot of things that have happened. And, he kind of went around and kind of said he understood why I was asking the question, but there wasn't really an answer. To be honest, he did talk about Pedro just being snake bit by injuries. Is that also on him? Is that on the scouting? I mean, that might be a little bit, I don't know, harsh to blame him for it. But all in all, I do think that there's a reason why they were inactive, and I believe that we did enough to clear the audience's questions and narratives. There was questions about, is it the fact that they have a whole new building and a whole new sporting facility? The reason why is it attendance? Is it the fact that they're going to buy the ring or they bought the ring? And he kind of mentioned and said that it was none of those things. It was just about budget. That it didn't matter what resources they had. That there was just no room in the cap space to do anything.
Yeah, so something else. Yeah, that was great intel there, by the way. I really appreciate you sharing that stuff with us. Another thing he was talking about that I was wondering your take on, just because it caught my ear and I was just not really sure that I see it the same way as he did. Like he seemed to express much more satisfaction with the team, with where the team is at than I think certainly than the fan base does. I mean, his point, he brought up, we're one of only 2 or 3 teams or whatever that are still in it for Leagues Cup, that are still in it for Open Cup, and that are in a playoff spot. And, when I hear that, I'm like, okay, I mean, that's a fair point to point out, but you're playing at 1.48 points per game in league play and you're in 7th place. So it's not like you're contending for the Shield or anything. And my kind of take when I heard that was like, all right, I mean, if you want to stand on that for now, fair point, but you better win at least one and, if not 2 of those trophies that you're talking about. And then if you do that, then I'll accept that as validation of this approach and of where the roster stands. But like, if it's just a thing where you compete kind of for all 3 of them, and then the second you play some upper tier competition, you get bounced out and you don't win anything, then I don't really know how much that justifies. What did you think of that talking point that he gave?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's tough because you're spot on. It really looks like a house of cards or like this optical illusion where that he's kind of showing you what he wants to show you, and that's fair. Just like you said, I mean, when things haven't quite gone exactly the way you wanted them in terms of what you brought on, we just talked about that. When the situation and the circumstances within the club have been as fluctuating and up and down as they have been this season, locker room results, all kinds of stuff that kind of have emerged this 2024, he's got to show you the good, right? And to be fair to him, just like you said, I mean, he kind of has that to fall on, right? I mean, he said that he was going to be competitive regardless of, and as much as it's been a hard ride, a roller coaster ride, they're kind of up there enough in the standings. They are in a semifinal for Leagues Cup, and they are as far, of Open Cup, and they're as far as they've gone in Leagues Cup. So is it more of, I don't want to call it luck, but I think that the season has kind of played itself in a way that he's been able to save face. But I'm with you. Anybody who looks at the numbers, who looks at the play, who ultimately expects more from this team, has every right to be upset and say, hey, you're being way too content with the reality of this team. But that's kind of his job. He's going to show you the good because that's all he kind of has to do. But that's something that I don't agree with. I'm with you. I think that the season has not been as successful as the standings or where you are in the tournament is at. I think it's very easy, or it's a lot easier, not very easy. It's a lot easier for you to go far in a short tournament like Open Cup, like Leagues Cup, than a full year of league play, where that's where you're really testing your depth, you're testing the real quality of your team and the ups and downs of the season. So having a good month is not having a good year, and that's where Seattle is right now. They're having a good month, they're going off of vibes, they're going off of Paul Rothrock vibes, they're going off of great play by Jamer Gomez Andrade, they're going up by Jordan Morris, who's hot right now. So, he's kind of got to show you what's kind of working.
Yeah, great point. I'm going to get one more in here real quick, and then Noah, I'll kick it to you if you got anything. So I was wondering, Niko, your take on what the biggest need on this roster is right now. I'll tell you what I think, then you can hit us with what you think. The way I look at this roster right now, and we were talking about this on our last show, but I actually don't think it's like crazy far off from at least being competitive with these upper tier teams in the league like LAFC and Columbus. And then, Inter Miami, I kind of put in their own category. But, we've seen this team struggle quite a bit on offense this season, especially earlier in the season and dating back to last season. But they've been defensively very solid, really, I think. And I think when I look at Rusnak and Morris, I see a 1-2 punch there that's been very, very productive and dynamic recently and combining very well. And they're putting up the numbers on the stat sheet. This team needs a lot more production and creativity and dynamic play from out wide. And I know that Pedro de la Vega was supposed to provide that. That was like the whole point, is that he was going to be the one that boosted this offense in that way. Obviously that hasn't happened because he got injured, but like, we're big fans of Joseph Paintsil and Gabriel Peck on this show. I love what the Galaxy did there, like spot on. And my take is just like, if you just put like a duo that was that dynamic and productive out wide on this team, you all of a sudden could really be, look at what that did for the Galaxy. They went from being like a kind of middling to actively bad team the last few years to now their attack and their offense is excellent. That's kind of what I want to see, the moves that I want to see roster. Is there any other area of need, or would you kind of agree with that outlook?
If we're going to use the LA Galaxy as an example, then I'd go beyond the triple P's, right? The Pudge, Peck, and Paintsel. I would go back and say Brookman coming back and being healthy again. Aude out wide. All the things that they've kind of put together. And I say that because I feel like Seattle needs to do a couple of things. Number one, I'm with you on the wide play. That's what they were looking at. That's what they're still looking at. They're looking for a guy of a different profile. Look, I'm buying all the stock that you can sell me on Paul Rothrock. I am.
We are too.
Yeah.
But there are guys out there that maybe put you at a different level while allowing Paul Rothrock to continue to grow, continue to develop, and don't give him this massive load to be that guy that's expected to be a Peck or expected to be a Pencil, because that's where your DPs go. That's where you're bringing in those guys to really change the game, right? And I've said this all year long. Right now, Seattle does not have an X factor. They don't have that difference maker, that player that is going to put his team on his shoulders, and that it doesn't matter what team you're playing on. He's a game breaker, baby. He's going to just take you apart piece by piece. So I do believe that there's need for a wide player. And if Seattle wants to continue to play Jordan as the 9, then I'm all good and well. Because if not, then let's switch it up. Let's put Jordan on wide and go and get yourself 18 goal a year type of DP striker. Because that's another way you can do that. Because I feel like Jordan can be just as productive out wide as he's being up top. So you go and you move Jordan to the side and get you a striker. But the one that I don't think many people are seeing, that to me is key for what Seattle likes to do, wants to do, for this soccer module that Brian has created, is a real 6, a real disruptor, a guy that's an Aussie type, a guy that's gonna take the ball away and just play simple. The Kubas of the world, that type of 6 that's just gonna take it away, give it up easy. Flores, Davy Flores for Toronto right now. That's the guy. That guy's woo. That is what I'm talking about. That guy's just gonna just fight every ball, win every duel, and he's gonna play simple, and he's gonna allow other players to do the other work. He's gonna give you that dirty work. He's gonna make you even more solid defensively. Because as good as Seattle has been on defense, there are times where it's very easy to play through that midfield, and there's a lot of pressure put on your fullbacks, and that's why you've seen him exposed sometimes. People like to blame Alex Roldan a lot. Nuhu a lot of times. Yes, that's fair because Nuhu sometimes gets a little out of shape or a lot out of shape when it comes to that defensiveness. But you've seen so many times Yemer have to go back and use his speed to recover and fix. And all those things can be very easily amended by having another six. JP, love that guy. MVP semi-finalist for MVP a couple years ago. I think he's back to being almost 100%. But there's an age question. There's a what next question. So because of that, I feel like you got to go get your replacement before it's too late. Have that guy ready to go when JP's not there.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I was going to ask you about that defensive mid position because we've seen Atencio and Obed work together, and that's just really not panned out the way that I think the Sounders had wanted it to be. So I'm in total agreement. I think finding a six is a big key to, especially as this team's played so well on the counterattack, having that piece to turn over balls, win those duels. It could be even a better investment than a young pacey wing player, someone who could, get injured or something like that. Like that bruiser would be awesome. Last question here for you. This was the thing that struck me the most as someone who's been incredibly impatient for a signing, whether that is valid or not. Craig had said that the summer is a better market for transfers, which I think is a fair thing to say. And he said, I wouldn't be surprised if we held resources this next winter for the next summer, so summer 2025. How are we feeling about that? Does that concern you at all, or does that make sense?
That concerns me a whole lot because if you are betting on the summer window and you're hoping that the wheels of this bus don't fall, I think you're setting up yourself for failure. You need to revamp this team as early as January because there is an adaptation curve. There's a learning curve individually, not as a group, but individually. There's a learning curve for every player. You got to figure out if it's going to work. And are the pieces around this player going to be able to allow him to be successful? There's so many things that you need to see, in my opinion, early on. Because if you don't hit gold in the summer, which I can't remember the last time that the Sounders hit gold in the summer, that's a problem, right? So if that hasn't been what's been working, why do it on a Club World Cup year? Why do it when there's so much expectations? I don't know about you guys, but there is a need. There's almost a necessity for this team to show a lot better than they did last Club World Cup. They need to at least win one game. Win one game. That's all you gotta do. You got one job. Win one game. That's all. Nobody's expecting you to be Real Madrid or whoever else is in that Club World Cup. But win you a game and don't get play out of the dang field. Do not do that. And if you're gonna do that, you're gonna need to get some guys in the winter. So I think he's saying that. I think that there are guys already on his radar. I understand that it's very easy to wait for a guy's contract to expire in the summer because that's when all the contract expire. But man, you owe this fan base at least one transfer fee. I mean, me and Jeremiah and Jada Evans and all, we were talking about something similar, and it was like, look, the best players, you're going to have to pay a transfer fee. The best players are not waiting for their contract to expire. The best players are not free agents. So if you want to go get yourself a baller, you got to pay baller dollar. So I really do think that there's a responsibility on Hanauer, and a lot of it, Craig might have to go in there and be like, hey, man, I need this cash because this fan base needs and deserves and has earned by being there the 20,000 or so that continue to go consistently. They deserve a big signing in the winter. So if you got to go out there and pay a transfer fee to get this guy off a contract, then you do that, especially next year, especially in a Club World Cup year.
Absolutely. All right. I think we're going to let you go on that one, Niko. But thank you so much for coming on with us. We really appreciate the time. And we're definitely going to have to do it again soon. I know, the transfer tracking game for you hasn't been as hot with all this like patient waiting. But anytime the Sounders do have a target, Niko's the guy to follow. Follow him on Twitter at ElRoloNW, ELROLONW.
We'll put it in the description.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description. Thanks again, man. Like I said, we're going to do this again soon for sure. And
do you have anything you want to plug?
Do you have anything you want to plug?
Thursdays with Niko on Soccer Down Here. That's 7:30 to 8 o'clock every Thursday on the Twitch. I put it on my Pulso and on my media, my X account. So check that out. Love that segment. We do the whole Western Conference. We talk about juice boxes. If you like to play juice boxes on games that are coming up or MLS, we do a lot of cool stuff there. So check that out. Of course, Pulso Sports as well. I try to do a little bit of English stuff, a lot of Spanish as well there. But whenever I do have English content, go ahead and follow that up.
We will make sure to put all those links in the description. So if you want to find Niko, down in the description, all of that. We got you guys.
Thanks again, man. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you, Niko.
You're right, my friend. Have a good one.
Thank you so much to Niko Moreno from Sounder at Heart and Pulso Sports for joining us. I thought that was a great segment, Noah. Niko always comes through with the intel and the behind the scenes, and it's always, we bounce our takes off each other all the time, but it's always nice to get a different voice in there and hear what they have to say and their perceptions of this team and this roster. All right, let's hit this LAFC preview, and then we're going to hit other Leagues Cup results and then do this USMNT coaching hire at the end. Does that sound good?
Heck yeah, let's do it.
All right, LAFC preview. Awesome. We have to preview these guys again. I am pretty tilted with how this turned out, honestly. Seattle has already played LAFC twice this year. They got smashed on 3-0 at Lumen Field the last time they played. They lost 1-0 at LAFC the first time that they played. And then they also play them in the Open Cup, so it's too much LAFC. I'll just say it right off the bat. I'm tired of these guys. Don't want to see them anymore, and I'm pretty annoyed that it's 2 more times now, including once in an elimination game. Also, after having been eliminated by them in the playoffs last year, so I'm tired of it. But it is what it is. LAFC. In their last Leagues Cup game, they played the Earthquakes, who, God,
they came out to a good start, man.
I was really, I'm a longtime fan of the San Jose Earthquakes.
Yep.
I've rooted for them my whole life, and I really thought the boys could get it done. But in all seriousness, the Quakes are useless. It was too much to ask. They bammed that guy, Hernan Lopez, Diego Maradona's nephew. He's pretty good.
Can we get him?
He would be great.
Them, Leo Chu, just straight swap. Leo Chu for him, just swap.
Hernan Lopez looks like an actual player for them. Unfortunately for them, he's about the only actual player that they have. It was always too much to ask for the Quakes to come through in this game. 4-1 to LAFC. We've talked about it. We talked about it like 2 weeks ago when Seattle played LAFC, but Dennis Bouanga is an evil demon spawned from the gates of hell. He has to be stopped for just the safety of society at large. He's a safety hazard, and someone has to stop him, but I don't know if anyone can or if the Seattle Sounders can. He runs 35 miles per hour up and down the field. He's a cheetah. He kicks the ball at 127 miles per hour velocity with pinpoint accuracy. When he kicks it, your goalkeeper, he can get in the way of it, but it's just gonna
it tears a hole through his body,
him and goes into the net. Even if you have a chance at making the save. So I hate this guy. I wish I didn't have to watch him play soccer ever again, and I have to do it twice in elimination games in the next couple weeks. I'm salty about it. I never feel good going into a game against him. Here's the thing I will say, and I was saying this on my KJR hit with Jackson Feltz the other day, but it's pretty hard. LAFC has to play Seattle 3 times in this stretch too, and they won the first one. It's pretty hard to beat the same team 3 times in a row, no matter how much of a quality differential there might be. So my honest prediction here is that they're going to split these games. LAFC is going to eliminate Seattle from one of these tournaments, and Seattle's going to eliminate LAFC from one of these tournaments. I don't know which is going to be which. I think that's kind of up to chance, but just purely based on the fact that you pretty much never bam on a team like that emphatically 3 times in a row. I think that would be my prediction for how it's going to pan out. That being said, when you have an evil, demonic force of nature like Denis Bouanga, they could bam on Seattle twice in a row and eliminate them from both these tournaments, which would be highly unfortunate. But this LAFC team is just really hard to stop right now, and they have Olivier Giroud. They have the leading goal scorer in the history of the French national team, who debuted against the Quakes. Steve C said that he's probably going to play a little bit in this game, even though he's 37. It's on turf, so that's just another unfortunate wrinkle for this situation. And I wish this game was not happening against this opponent, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, when Giroud's knees explode at Starfire Stadium, and he comes off the ground, his knees they explode and turn into ash, and then a phoenix rises out, and that phoenix goes inside of Denis Bouanga, and then he winds up and kicks the ball to eliminate the Sounders out of Open Cup at Starfire Stadium in front of 10,000 people, or however many it is.
I think it's like 5K, but
5,000 people. It's going to be evil. And this next match, I'm not looking forward to either. I don't want to make a prediction because it really could go either way. I do think the Sounders have a better chance at winning that Open Cup game, especially
the Starfire variable.
The Starfire variable, and if LAFC does end up eliminating the Sounders, I think they have a pretty good chance of going on to the final. And if that final is going to take place, like,
what if they just punt the Open Cup?
Yeah, they could do that. I don't know.
It's not out of the question. Like, do you really think Steve C is going to have the courage to deploy both Denis Bouanga and Giroud at Starfire
on like 3 days rest from the final?
I mean, like, even so, like, Kai Kamara, Kabam, like, it's just, their roster's so loaded. That team's so deep. They play some of the most ruthless ball in the league. It's just, I know that there's like a built-in amount of time that you're going to have to play LAFC every year. It's in the same conference, but just 4 times like this, it's just unfortunate.
I had this question before we move on from this little section. Do you feel better or worse going into this LAFC match than the last one when we played? Because we felt pretty bad going into the last LAFC.
I feel much better because Seattle's been in great form these last 2 games. And, I felt bad going into the Galaxy game, and they absolutely torched the Galaxy. I think, I was talking a bunch of smack about how I rate the Galaxy over LAFC. I think
we took some flack for that.
I don't actually believe that. I'm gonna have to go ahead and retract that take. I think this LAFC team is just, they have like an elite defense right now, which the Galaxy decidedly do not have. I really think the attacks are honestly pretty much on par. Like, I don't know. With LAFC getting Giroud now, we'll have to see what impact that has on their level. To answer your question, I do feel better because of the form that Seattle is in. And again, like, I think it's going to be more competitive. I don't think LAFC is going to come in here again and absolutely boat race Seattle again. It could happen, but I would be pretty surprised.
Someone clip that, and if that happens, just post that clip online.
That's fine. Like, my predictions, as we learned in the Galaxy game, mean very little, but that's kind of how I see it. All right. Let's hit these other Leagues Cup results because there were some fun ones. The Crew bammed on Inter Miami. Inter Miami, done.
See you, buddy.
Go home. See ya. Get him out of here.
Messi.
No Messi. And they, this was actually a great game, though. Inter Miami went up 2-0. Like, they looked like they were in control. And really, like, I know they got eliminated, but like, to go into Columbus, play as well as they did in the first half, take a 2-0 lead. This guy, Matias Rojas, that they signed.
Oh, my God, dude.
That's another guy where it's like, God, if the Seattle Sounders could have just signed that guy. Holy, like, I mean, and it's like, that guy is in addition to the Barca boys.
Yeah.
Like, he has nothing to do with Barcelona. He's just a bonus, and he's looking like one of the better acquisitions of the season. And he was bamming. Inter Miami looked like they were in the driver's seat, and then the Crew did the Crew thing in the second half. Wilfred Nancy, he laid those halftime adjustments down because his boys came out in the second half, scored 3 goals, won the game 3-2 to eliminate Inter Miami, and really kind of further stake their claim as one of, if not the best teams in the league. I mean, I still, if Messi's playing in that game, I still think Inter Miami, I would take them in an individual game with Messi playing over
absolutely.
the Crew. I still would.
I mean, I have disagreed with that, but I think at this point, with Matias Rojas being just a baller, I think I kind of agree.
Yeah. So, the Inter Miami's out though. That's the reigning Leagues Cup champion. So, good job to the Crew, honestly, for doing that. NYCFC bammed on Tigres. Tigres, another upper tier league Mekis team, gone. Go home.
That's insane.
Get them out of here.
See ya, buddy.
See ya. Tigres, I think, went up 1-0. NYCFC came back. NYCFC continue to be one of the more fun young teams in the league. I think I give their front office brass and their whole organization a lot of credit to the commitment they made to these young guys. And then what's funny though is they brought back Maxi Morales, who's 37, and he scored a goal in this game, and he's still got it. And Maxi Morales is just an awesome player. He's 5'2", just a really underratedly legendary MLS player for sure. And NYCFC, just low key every year, they're just one of the better teams, and they've really. But I admire and appreciate the way they've done it with this year's team.
Yeah, their roster build is. It's almost like before its time, because now we've switched over to you can have 2 or 3 DPs and then a bunch of U22 slots. They were like, you know what, fuck it, dude, U22 slots only. We don't need a DP.
And not only did they do that, but they were like, even if we put you all out on the field early on and we struggle, we take some lumps, we're going to commit to that.
Yeah, and
eventually. We know it's going to pay off because we believe in our scouting. We believe in what we've done here. And lo and behold, that's what happens sometimes when you give the young guys a chance. It pays off like that. If you have conviction in what you're doing, it's obvious that they have conviction in how they built that roster enough to give guys a chance even when they had to take some lumps. Now it's paying off.
Yeah. I'll never forgive them for transferring Talis Magno, but that's okay.
I mean, he was bunk this year, though.
Dude, he beat Messi at his own game in that random as friendly in October of last year. He's the GOAT.
All right, that's
Talis
fair.
Magno
He
the
was
GOAT.
a pretty sick player. St. Louis City, man, they almost actually did it to Club America. They almost did it. They went ahead. I think they went ahead 1-0, and they definitely went ahead 2-1. But so I tuned into that game when St. Louis was up 2-1 on them because I was like, is Club America, the biggest club in Mexico, about to lose to St. Louis City? And so I had to turn that on, and I was like, please let this happen. But pretty much the entire time I was watching that game, Club America was just absolutely dominating. They were down 2-1, but it looked like Real Madrid playing against.
Berkey was going crazy.
Well, yeah, Berkey was going crazy, and they were flubbing chances, but their XG for this game must have been 6+ or something with how they were playing, and. Sure enough, I mean, eventually it got away from St. Louis, and Club America goes on to win 4-2. Club America games in this tournament, I mean, they're not playing on the road. Their fan base in this country is insane. I noticed that when they came to Seattle, it was easily the biggest visiting presence I've ever seen. It's like that everywhere they go. They're like the Hollywood team of Mexico, I guess, because their fan base. I mean, I know they're really popular in Mexico, obviously, but their fan base here is far and away above any other Liga MX team that I've seen. And that game looked like they were playing at home.
Yeah,
it literally looked like they were playing at home. Every time they scored a goal, the whole stadium was just going crazy. And honestly, my takeaway from watching that game is just watching them play and the level that they're playing at right now. I know there's only 2 Liga MX teams left. You put that team against even LAFC or Columbus or Inter Miami if they were still in it, I would give them a very good chance, if not tab them as the favorite. They are balling right now.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the pundits say that America is the favorite, and to add on to the fan thing, legitimately any soccer match that you go to in the US, you will always see at least one America jersey. They're like the LA Galaxy back when they first signed Beckham, and you'd go to I don't know, fucking, I was in Spain at the time, and there was 4 people just walking around with the LA Galaxy jerseys, and I'm like, have you been to LA before, bro? You watch MLS, and they're like, oh no, David Beckham's sick. I don't know. Shout out to America.
That's definitely, I recommend tuning into their games for this tournament, just because more than any other team, I guess, Inter Miami is a spectacle in their own right when Messi's playing, but he hasn't been. But like their games are a real spectacle.
100%.
Philly bammed on FC Cincy, which was pretty funny.
Are they back?
Well, so okay, that's a good question for this. Like, I think they kind of are. Like, they've been very resurgent in this tournament, and really even a couple games I think before that in league play, they were looking a lot better. And like, to go into Cincy, TQL, which Cincy's a supporter shield frontrunner, one of the best teams in the league. And I mean, Philly hung 4 goals on them. I think there is an element of like Cincy are just so beaten to shreds by injuries right now. So it's not really like Cincy at their apex. But
it's probably good for them to lose.
Remember, I'm going to miss this, like the Philly Union's run of like 10 straight games where they were not just losing, but losing in like the craziest.
Yeah.
Like if you lose like a couple of games that crazily 2 or 3 times in a year, you're like, damn, how does this keep happening? They did it like 8 times in a row. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
I had no idea what to make of it, but I think like they have come out of that. This Baribo, I think his name was. I might have butchered that. The Israeli striker. He's in really good form. He scored a couple goals in this game. So Jim C and the Philly Union are back. That's also another example of why you don't like fire your coach after one bad run of form. Like, I know a lot of people were calling for Jim C to be fired. A lot of Philly fans were calling for that. And I get it. That must have been the most infuriating run of form to watch, probably of a lot of Philly fans' time, like following the team in the last like 5 years. But they seem back, and since he's gone, get him out of here.
Yeah, Philly, I think they literally didn't even just lose like 24 games straight. They lost all those games and were having the plague happen on their field. Like their entire field would wash away in a flood, and then there was like raccoons taking over the field, and then it was like locusts were swarming and like planes were flying over, and it was just like that was a.
It was weird. There was like it really felt like there was something like cosmic going on. And if you watch a Jim C press conference during that run, which I watched a lot of them, like you could tell he thought like the same way. Like they'd be asking him questions, and he would be like, I mean, I don't really know what to say about it at this point. It's the 4th game in a row where something completely insane that I've never seen before in my career has happened, and we lost. So I'm just going to tell the boys to keep chopping wood, I guess. Like, I don't know if I would have said anything different if I was in his position. It was wild.
Me neither.
Colorado Rapids did it again. They took down their 3rd Liga MX team in a row. This time it was Toluca. This was a pretty electric game. It was like 3-2 and like heart pounding till the very last second. Zach Steffen was doing his thing again. Apparently the Colorado Rapids are just too much for Liga MX. They can't their league is like just so much better than MLS, but you throw the Colorado Rapids at them and they don't know how to handle it.
They can't do it at Mile High.
Like we can beat any of your teams just not the Colorado Rapids.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird phenomenon.
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
All right. That was all I had on for the Rapids segment.
No need to add on. It's the Rapids.
Let's hit this Pochettino news. This is big news, and then we'll get out of here to some USMNT punditry here. The U.S. men's national team has a coach reportedly. I don't know if I've seen it official yet, but I think it's pretty much like official.
Yeah.
As far if it becomes unofficial,
I think it was a Fabrizio Romano tweet.
We'll retract. But if Fab's tweeted about it, it's over. I mean, let's talk about this because this is a big name. Like, this is a splashy hire. I think, doesn't it kind of feel like it was almost done by Matt Crocker to placate the bots? Like, he's like, all right, this type of thing is what you guys wanted. Here you go. They
were upset though.
Okay. I saw mixed reactions. We'll talk about the reaction.
Maybe I'm in deep with the bots.
A lot of them were excited, but no, some of them were pissed, which is, I mean, that just proves that some people will never be happy in life. But I mean, this guy on the global stage is considered, I think, one of the biggest names, one of the most kind of respected coaches out there. I think primarily fostered through his time as the head coach of Tottenham, which he was from 2014 to 2019. That's sort of when I remember like hearing about him
100%.
Really becoming one of these big name coaches. But he's also coached PSG. He's also coached Chelsea, and he's earned his reputation. So I guess my reaction to the hire is like, I'm on record as not really thinking that the coach matters all that much. So we'll see. But I'm with it, I'm down to see how he would do. And I think in terms of just like generating excitement and kind of intrigue around the team. Like, I'm curious to see how it goes for sure. And, you know, as a fan of the team, I'm rooting for his success, but I'm kind of curious to watch it as sort of a case study to see how much of a difference he's actually going to make towards the results. I think that people might find that the results might not look all that different than they were under Berhalter, just because I think this player pool is underperforming. I think these guys are not really living up to this golden generation tag. And I think until that changes, you could put Pep in there, you could put anyone in there, and the results are probably going to be roughly the same. Maybe a coach like Pochettino is so much better than Berhalter, which I think he is, like that it's going to give you like some more positive results than you would have had otherwise. But I think a lot of the onus here falls on the players to deliver on this potential that we've talked about. I've got annoyed watching with how drastically they underperformed, which we did a lot of content about that. So we'll see. But like in principle, like I'm with it. I'm curious to see how he does.
Yeah, I think in one breath we both are in agreement that 9 times out of 10 a coach is not the problem. I think 100% that this player pool, for whatever reason, some people want to say they're spoiled or that they don't work hard. Some people want to say like
maybe they're just not that.
Maybe they're
good.
Just not. I think that's where I am. I just think that
that's not
maybe,
how I kind of feel about it. It could be that's possible.
Yeah, but I think one of the arguments that a lot of people were making was, and I think a valid argument, that Greg was not adversarial to his players. He placated everything in the locker room, and that is why they brought him back. It was because the locker room was like, we love you. We're behind you. You know, you say yeah, you don't say no to us kind of thing. And I think we cooked on that a little bit, saying that there was a petulant child vibe with that team that it kind of seemed like he needed a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't put that much stock on that at the time, but looking back on it, I think there might have been something to that in terms of just like maybe an air of complacency or an air of like, we have arrived and we are the best already.
The Tyler
and
Adams
it's like,
thing.
Yeah, the Tyler Adams thing. Like, I'm one of the best in the world.
It's like, buddy, no, you're not.
You're not. So yeah, maybe a little kick in the ass that Pochettino can hopefully give would serve this team well. But like, I guess where I'm at is just, I'm skeptical of this player pool until they prove different.
I hope that he is able to take the blinders off of we're only going to pull up Euro players. I hope that he takes the blinders off and is like, all right, like a Jordan Morris who is in form and can, contribute. Yes, that's right. USMNT fans, I just said Jordan Morris could compete and actually help you win games for the U.S. men's national team. I hope that the player pool changes, which I know he doesn't have a ton of swing with. I don't know exactly how it's structured, whatever. But I think it could be good. I think it could be bad. I'll wait and see. Who like we've said, a coach can be extremely helpful and change the narrative, but 9 times out of 10, it's the players. It's on them. One last thing that I had to say about it personally, this is officially the Chelsea national team, because the women's national team coach is former Chelsea, men's national team coach, former Chelsea, and I think that's perfect because for the men's national team, we spend a lot on talented youth and win 0 trophies, which is the Chelsea model.
That's the Chelsea way. Good point. Yeah, exactly. All right. I think that's actually a perfect place to wrap it up. Thank you all so much for tuning in here to episode 58. What a dub pod that was.
That was insane.
We made it through it. A lot of content. Thank you to all our paid subs. Thank you to everyone who listens. Thank you to everyone who's subbed to the YouTube. Please help us out on the drive to 400 YouTube subs. Like, rate, comment, subscribe, 5-star review. Tell everyone you know to listen to the show. Thanks again. Until next time, we out.
Peace.